My presentation is on community ecology for rivers and streams, and my name is Daniel Brady. Community ecology for rivers and streams includes how populations of fish, mammals, birds, crustaceans, mollusks, algae, bacteria, and other organisms interact with one another in or around rivers and streams. This includes the complex interactions of all organisms in the river or stream, such as competition for food, suitable habitat, or mates, predator-prey interactions, such as the food web or refuge, commensalism, such as algae on turtles or remoras on fish, mutualism, such as bottom feeders or lichen, and parasitism, such as leeches or lampreys. This also includes the populations of organisms that live in or around the river corridor as well. This is a diagram that shows the complex interactions between the terrestrial environment, which includes the riparian zone and the upland area, and the aquatic environment. And as you can see, there are vast majority of these organisms are on the community level. The riparian zone is a vegetative zone that is on the banks of the river, and it is crucial in determining the organisms that live in the river corridor. This is a diagram on the riparian zone showing how crucial it is to the river or stream that it surrounds, and it affects the energy, the habitat, and the overall productivity of the stream. The dynamics of community ecology for rivers and streams. There are several different concepts or models that are used to explain the dynamics of river ecosystems. This is a diagram showing the previously mentioned concepts or models on the dynamics of river ecosystems. This includes the fish zones, river continuum, and flood pulse concepts, and the riverine productivity model, as well as the riverine ecosystem synthesis. I'm going to speak briefly on the river continuum concept because the species richness and diversity will change as the stream gains orders. I'm going to speak briefly on the river continuum. This is a diagram of the river continuum concept, and as you can see, as the stream gets larger in order, the organisms present change, and therefore it affects the species richness and diversity of the stream. Competition, when individuals within a population or two or more populations directly or indirectly contend with each other for survival. An ecological niche is a role played in an ecosystem by a specific species. When two of the same species or different species attempt to fill the same niche, competition inevitably occurs. Competition can be for resources or shelter. This can include food, not only just for actual food, but for the best potential for gaining energy while limiting the amount of energy used. Examples of this are larger producer populations, or in fish, the best feeding life. It can also be for habitat, which is area with the best available conditions, but can also be shelter from harm or refuge. Examples of this are pH, DO, or a nice undercut bank. Competition can also be for mating. All organisms inherently want to reproduce, so they compete for the best available resources to be able to have enough energy to mate, such as mating rituals. In the diagram to the right is the Locke-Vertero model of competition, and it shows the various outcomes that happen in competition. Predator-prey interactions. This not only includes the obvious predation, but also the behavior and mentality that the prey species inherently have to survive. These are some examples of freshwater food webs, The one on the left is a very simple one that is basically just shows the food web in a general small order stream. Whereas if you look to the right, you will see a much larger scale freshwater channel. This is actually a food web of the Hudson River. And one reason why I predominantly picked this food chain is it includes people, which most food webs don't think to include. The trophic levels in rivers and streams. These are the producers and consumers in river ecosystems. These are some examples of the trophic levels in rivers and streams. The primary producers are algae, aquatic plants, cyanobacteria, diatoms, leaf litter, periphyton, phytoplankton, and terrestrial plants such as the riparian zone. Some primary consumers are benthic macroinvertebrates such as mayflies or stoneflies, crayfish, mollusks, freshwater snails or mussels, smaller fish, darters or minnows, and zooplankton. Secondary consumers include aquatic macroinvertebrates such as dragonfly larvae, bigger crayfish, bigger fish such as bass and trout, and smaller birds such as kingfishers and herons. While some tertiary consumers would be bigger birds such as ospreys or eagles, and larger fish such as pike, catfish, or muskellunge. Commensalism, when two or more organisms have a symbiotic relationship where at least one benefits and the rest are unaffected. An example of commensalism is the giant river turtle and green algae in the Amazon River basin and other places. The giant river turtle is not affected by the green algae, while without the turtle, the algae would not have a habitat to thrive in. Mutualism, when two or more organisms have a symbiotic relationship where both benefit. An example of this is lichen. Fungus and algae have a mutualistic relationship in which they are combined to form lichen. The algae produces food for itself and the fungus, whereas the fungus takes in water for itself and the algae. Both organisms are benefited. Parasitism. Organisms that gain nutrients from their hosts. An example of parasitism is lampreys on trout. The lampreys attach themselves to the trout and suck blood out of them. This relationship is parasitic because the parasite, the lamprey, gains nutrients at the expense of the host, the trout. That was my presentation on community ecology for rivers and streams. My name is Daniel Brady. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed this picture of a nice brown trout caught on an orange sulfur in the headwaters of the Buchanan River. Sorry.